The story of the prophet Ezekiel and the Watchman during the Babylonian exile, when the people of Judah were far from their homeland and living under foreign rule. The Lord raised up the prophet Ezekiel to speak his words to the exile. Ezekiel's ministry was marked by dramatic visions, symbolic actions, and powerful messages of judgment and hope. One of the key themes in his prophecies was the role of the watchman, a metaphor for the prophet's responsibility to warn the people of impending danger and call them to repentance. The Lord gave Ezekiel a solemn charge, saying, "Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Whenever you hear a word from my mouth, you must warn them from me." As a watchman, Ezekiel was responsible for delivering God's messages faithfully, whether they were words of warning or words of hope. If he failed to warn the wicked to turn from their ways, their blood would be on his hands. But if he delivered the warning and they refused to listen, their blood would be on their own heads. Ezekiel's role as a watchman was not an easy one. The people of Israel were stubborn and rebellious, and many refused to listen to his warnings. They had turned away from the Lord, worshipping idols and engaging in sinful practices. Ezekiel was called to confront their sins and call them to repentance, even when it seemed like no one was listening. One of the key messages Ezekiel delivered was the importance of individual responsibility. He said, "The one who sins is the one who will die. The child will not share the guilt of the parent, nor will the parent share the guilt of the child. The righteousness of the righteous will be credited to them, and the wickedness of the wicked will be charged against them." This was a radical shift from the collective mindset of the people, who often blamed their suffering on the sins of previous generations. Ezekiel emphasized that each person was accountable for their own actions, and that repentance was always possible. Ezekiel also delivered messages of hope, assuring the people that God had not abandoned them. He prophesied about the restoration of Israel, using the powerful image of dry bones coming to life. In a vision, the Lord showed Ezekiel a valley filled with dry bones and asked him, "Son of man, can these bones live?" Ezekiel replied, "Sovereign Lord, you alone know." Then the Lord caused the bones to come together, and flesh and breath returned to them, symbolizing the restoration of Israel. God promised, "I will put my spirit in you, and you will live, and I will settle you in your own land." Another key aspect of Ezekiel's ministry was his emphasis on the holiness of God. He had a profound vision of God's glory, describing the Lord's throne, surrounded by living creatures and wheels within wheels. This vision reminded the people that God was sovereign and holy, and he deserved their worship and obedience. Ezekiel's prophecies called the people to turn away from their idols and return to the Lord. The story of Ezekiel and the Watchman reminds us of the importance of speaking truth, even when it is difficult or unpopular. It challenges us to take responsibility for our actions and to seek repentance when we have strayed from God's ways. And it offers hope, assuring us that God's plans for restoration and renewal are always at work, even in the darkest times. Through Ezekiel's ministry, we are reminded that God is holy, just, and merciful. His story inspires us to live with integrity, to heed the warnings of his word, and to trust in his promises of restoration. It calls us to be watchmen in our own lives, warning others of the dangers of sin and pointing them to the hope found in Jesus Christ, who brings life to dry bones and restores all things.